AITA for never telling my best friend that I once slept with his wife years before they got back together? I'm a 38-year-old guy, and this story goes back literally decades. To make sense of it, I need to set the stage a bit. I grew up in the same neighborhood as Anna, 38F. We met when we were maybe 8 or 9, and for as long as I can remember, she's been like my other half in terms of friendship. We went through grade school together, played the same silly games, helped each other with homework, fought sometimes, but always made up. She was the person I could call at 2 a.m. in high school because I had a dumb teenage crisis, and she'd be there, no questions asked. By the time we were in senior high school, Anna had started dating a guy I'll call John, also 38M. He was her first real boyfriend. Around the same time, I had my own high school girlfriend. Since Anna and I were practically joined at the hip, the four of us often ended up on double dates. Bowling alleys, movies, late-night diners, it all felt like a little gang of ours. I liked John right away. He was easygoing, funny without being mean, the kind of guy you could just relax around. We clicked, though not in the deep, soul-bonded way Anna and I did. Still, I thought of him as a friend in his own right. Anna and John dated through the rest of high school and into the early years of university. They broke up sometime around sophomore year, saying it was mutual. From what I gathered, they both felt like they had only ever dated each other and wanted to see what else was out there. It wasn't bitter or ugly, just two young people figuring things out. After that, my contact with John was basically limited to quick nods or small talk if we passed each other on campus. Meanwhile, my girlfriend dumped me, and I didn't take it nearly as well as Anna and John had taken theirs. I was heartbroken and kind of lost. And that's where the next part of the story comes in. Anna was my rock through that breakup. She'd listen to me vent, take me out to get drunk on cheap beer, or just sit with me while I sulked. One night, after one of those long, life sucks conversations, something happened. We were both about 20. We were single, close, comfortable with each other in a way that was almost too natural. And that night we ended up sleeping together. It wasn't fireworks or romance. It was more like curiosity, mixed with comfort, mixed with poor judgment. And it happened more than once. A handful of times, actually. But each time, there was this gnawing feeling for both of us that it wasn't right. Not morally wrong. John and Anna were broken up, and I was single, but it felt off. I can only describe it as feeling like hooking up with your sister. We knew each other too well. We'd grown up together. There was no mystery, no tension. It just didn't sit right. One morning after, I remember sitting on her couch while she brought out cereal, and we just kind of looked at each other and said, yeah, let's not do this anymore. We agreed that it was weird, that it wasn't what either of us wanted, and that we'd never mention it again. We swore we'd just bury it and go back to being platonic friends. And that's exactly what we did. Life went on. We graduated. I landed my first real job. Then one day, out of the blue, I got a call from John. He'd found an opening at his company that he thought I'd be perfect for. I applied, got hired, and suddenly I was seeing John every day. We grew close, closer than I'd ever been with him before. Office lunches turned into after-work beers. We discovered we had similar senses of humor, liked the same music, even shared the same weird obsession with obscure trivia. Slowly, John transitioned from Anna's ex who I liked to my actual best friend. As for Anna and John, working together meant I occasionally brought Anna around, and eventually, the two of them started hanging out again. Before long, they were officially back together. Fast forward a bit, they got married about 8 years ago, and I was John's best man. 2 years later, when I got married, John stood next to me as my best man. That's how deep our friendship is now. And yet, every so often, this thought creeps into my brain. I slept with his wife. It was nearly 2 decades ago. It was before they rekindled their relationship. It was something Anna and I both dismissed and moved past. But the thought still shows up, uninvited. Part of me feels guilty, like I'm living a lie every time I have dinner at their house, or when John and I are laughing over a dumb inside joke. He trusts me completely, and sometimes I wonder if he would still feel the same way if he knew. On the flip side, another part of me says, why would you ever tell him? It's ancient history. It would only cause pain. I've seen enough people's lives blow up because of unnecessary confessions. Anna and I were never in love. We never carried on anything while she was with John, and it hasn't impacted our friendship since. I've also never told my wife. Not because I have lingering feelings for Anna, I don't, but because, again, it feels like a pointless grenade to lob into a perfectly stable marriage. My wife likes Anna. She adores John. Why poison that dynamic with something that happened before I even met her? Still, guilt is a weird thing. Even if you know rationally that saying something would do more harm than good, you can't always stop your brain from poking at the wound. I've never outright told anyone in my real life about this. But a couple of times, after a few drinks with other friends, I've posed hypothetical versions of the scenario. If you had a best friend and you'd hooked up with his now wife like 20 years ago, would you say something? The responses were mixed. A few said, hell no, you just wrecked 2 marriages for no reason. Others said, if you were really his best friend, he deserves the truth. No one gave an answer that made me feel fully at peace. So here I am, late at night, typing this into the void of Reddit because it keeps swirling in my head. I don't plan on telling John. I don't plan on telling my wife. Anna and I both buried this nearly 20 years ago, and neither of us ever slipped back into anything inappropriate since. But the guilt lingers sometimes, and I wonder, AITA for just keeping quiet about this? I know some people believe honesty is always the best policy, no matter how much time has passed. Others say that dragging the past into the present when it doesn't affect anything is selfish. I'm torn between the two philosophies. Update. Wow, I wasn't expecting this to blow up the way it did. I posted this mostly late at night, more like venting into the void, and then deleted it a few hours later. But before I deleted it, I read through a lot of the comments. And honestly, they gave me a lot to think about. Most of the top responses were variations of, "Don't say anything. It's ancient history. Nothing good can come of it." A few people insisted I was a terrible friend for not telling John, but the overwhelming majority seemed to agree that telling him now would just hurt him and my wife and Anna and pretty much everyone. That perspective actually lifted a weight I didn't realize I was carrying. For years, I thought the guilt meant I was doing something wrong by keeping quiet. Reading comment after comment saying, "It's not relevant anymore, let it go," was the first time I felt like maybe I wasn't just being a coward. So what happened next? First, I didn't tell John. I didn't tell my wife. I didn't tell Anna either. But the post made me realize how much this had been living rent-free in my head, and I decided I couldn't just shove it back down without processing it somehow. I ended up booking a session with a therapist, not specifically because of this, but because I realized if one buried secret could haunt me this much, maybe I needed better tools for dealing with guilt and intrusive thoughts. I've only been to a couple of sessions so far, but already it feels like a healthier outlet. Second, my friendship with John is exactly the same as it's always been. He called me last week about helping him move some furniture, and we ended up drinking beers in his garage until 2 a.m. We laughed about dumb college stories, and he told me how he and Anna are planning a big anniversary trip. The whole time I just kept thinking, this is a man who trusts me completely. Don't ruin that by dredging up something that would only cause pain. Third, I realized that part of the guilt wasn't about the past. It was about fear. Fear that somehow, someday, this secret would come out and everything would explode. I was living as if I was constantly waiting for that shoe to drop. The comments helped me see that unless I made the choice to drop it myself, it wasn't ever going to be an issue. Anna clearly buried it. John doesn't know or care. My wife doesn't need to know. The only person keeping the wound alive was me. So, no dramatic blow-ups. No confessions. No ruined marriages. Just a quieter shift in how I think about it. If there's one takeaway from all this, it's that sometimes silence really is the kindest option.